So historically, yes, it's an old pig town, and a lot of pig villages like around, like villages that feed into Bishop Auckland, and it's a beautiful town. I mean, obviously, my memories of it when I was younger, it was a much busier town. It was a vibrant market town. But I mean, that died off quite a while ago. I think people who live in Bishop Auckland now are just devastated with what it's become. We used to have a vibrant marketplace, and I don't just mean like a daytime market. It was full of bars. It was the nightlife from the top of the town to the bottom of the town. It was a social place to be. You would come and do your shopping here, and the high streets died. They've created a retail park. It's just not the same, you know. It's all fast food joints. I know that they're in the process of building a new retail park. We've been promised, well, there's the joke. I went to the town hall to see the plans for the new retail park with the new cinema that we all wanted. And I was pregnant with my youngest son. And by the time they actually open it, it's built now, there's no signs up, but by the time it's opened, he'll be old enough to apply for a job. I do, yeah. I mean, I was a massive Jeremy Corbyn supporter, and after he came so close in 2017, 2019 was actually the first time. I mean, I've been quite apathetic about politics. You know, I was one of those people who, we were a Labour area, so I would never have thought of voting any different anyway. I would have maybe not bothered to vote thinking Labour's bound to get in. That's kind of what the sentiment around here was. But I actually felt so passionate in 2019 and also could see the smear campaign that I thought, right, I need to get off my backside and go and leaflet or do something to try and help. It was my first involvement with the Labour Party. I was a member, but it was my first physical involvement. And I was quite surprised that I was the only person who was going in and out and getting the boxes of the letters, and I assumed there must be loads of others. And I remember asking Helen Goodman one day, how was it going on the doorstep? And she gave quite a vague answer. I never ever suspected that when I came home on election night from work, my two sons were downstairs and they said, the exit polls is lost, Mum. And I didn't believe it. I sat on the couch all night watching it because I thought, it can't be right. Absolutely devastated at the result. So I think part of it is because it's been so traditionally Labour, the council's been Labour-led, but people do still have this opinion that Labour don't do anything. They're all in it to line their own pockets or to benefit themselves. They don't care about the people. So they've either become quite angry about it, but also, hence a protest vote for the Conservatives. But also there's a lot of well, we can't do it. It's the way it is. You've just got to suck it up and try and look after yourself. Yes, yeah. I think if you look as well at the voting record over the past 4 or 5 elections, there has been a gradual decline in the numbers of people voting for Labour. All it took was that one to tip the balance. Yeah. I think Bojo had this appeal and he was promising people. He came across like he was doing it for the people. And there was also this big deal about it being the right and democratic thing to do. Like that part of the thing against Corbyn was, well, what he wants to do isn't democracy. We've already voted for Brexit. So he was kind of put in that, it was an impossible position, really. Hopefully, 5 years on, people have kind of realised it was lies, it was a mistake, and how you didn't think you were going to get that with the Tories, I don't know. Poor health is higher than the national average, or disability rates higher than the national average. And the big one because everybody now obviously is told to blame the immigrants, that our rate of ethnic minorities is less than 0.5%, which is much lower than the national average. So that clearly is not the problem. And I think that's one of the main things. Obviously, one of the candidates in Bishop Auckland is reform. And I think they're going to be going for that. I think they think that's what got them the Brexit vote. Obviously, the Tories with the plan to, send everybody home and stop immigration. That was one of the things people voted for. And I think we need to point out it's not a problem here. The reason there's no jobs is because no one's creating jobs. And the reason we're using the food bank is because we can't satisfy the rich. They're the ones who are taking everything, nobody else. We don't need a polished politician telling us what's good for us. What we need is someone who actually listens to the people, because there's numerous problems. It's such a diverse county. We've got very rural areas and we've got heavily populated towns. And the problems are different depending on where you live in the area. Plus we've got, like I said, we've got high levels of disability, ill health, unemployment. Problems are different for the elderly than they are for the young people. Social care is an issue. Further education is an issue. So I think what they need is someone who's going to say, look, I am accessible. Talk to me. Tell me what the problems are. And I'm not an experienced politician, but what I do is kind of fix problems in my job. And it's about, I could possibly do that for you. If I know what the problem is, we can work with local people. We can work with who we need to work with to try and fix problems. Everyone's got something different that they need fixing. Yeah. And engaging them. There's this apathy that they can't change the status quo. And it's about telling them that the only people who can is them. If they don't engage with politics, if they don't take part, if they don't use their vote, nothing will change. The people in power will continue to be in power and take advantage of them. They've got the power. They need to use their voice. I was at a hustings on Monday, where we were all invited. Well, at the time, there were 7 known candidates. As of today, there are, at the time, there were 6. As of today, there are 7. The Lib Dem candidate, the Green candidate, and the Conservative candidate didn't attend the hustings, so I met them in person. I've been told that the Green candidate is a paper candidate only, which to my mind means you're conning people into wasting a vote. That could be a vote that could go to somebody. If you've got no intention of being an MP and you're just a name on a piece of paper, you're wasting a vote, or you're telling people to waste a vote. The Conservative MP was raised in Germany. I think her dad was in the military, and I think she's from Jane. And I've seen social media where she's been to the local market town, Barnard Castle, which is a bit more affluent, one of the affluent wards in the constituency, and she's bought some scones and some local butter at the farmers market, which probably 75% of the people living in Bishop Auckland constituency couldn't afford to do. So it's a little bit out of touch. Sam Rushworth's the Labour candidate. He's been campaigning since autumn 2022. His actual Labour candidate Facebook page was set up in February 2021, so that's how long he's known he was going to be the candidate here. So he's got a hell of a head start. Autumn 2022, I think, is when Dehenna Davison announced she wouldn't be re-standing. So he's been out on doorsteps since then, obviously getting his name out, getting his face out. But he seems like a pretty decent guy. I think there's a lot of people standing for the Labour Party who are decent people, It's just the leadership and the parliamentary party. And the fact that they won't actually be talking about change, but they're not going to do anything that's going to make a difference. That's the problem with them. And the Reform candidate, He has previously stood for UKIP, and I don't know an awful lot about him personally, but he didn't give much away. But we were at a Hustons in a college, and one of the questions particularly was about, young people not daring to go to university with the fees and things like that. And he stood on the stage in front of these young people and said, I went to university. I went at a time when it was all free and you didn't have to pay for it. I wasted my first year partying. I don't think you need that. I think what you should do is you should leave school, spend the first year going to work so you can pay for your university and do your course in 2 years because you don't need to party. So I don't think that might have gone down particularly well, but that kind of just shows, again, how out of touch. I enjoyed all of this and have had a privileged life because of my education, but I don't think you deserve the same. That doesn't sit right with me. This is not a dream of mine. It's not a bucket list thing. I never ever wanted to be a politician. And I really, really like the job that I've got. And I like to, if I was a politician, it looks to me to be incredibly hard work. It takes up a lot of your time. It's not just a 9 to 5 thing. But if I was doing it, I would do it properly, and I would. As far as I'm concerned, I'm employed by the people who vote for me. So if they voted for me, I would be doing the job to satisfy them. So I would want to deliver, like I do for my boss at work now. I want to deliver the objectives he gives me. So I would make sure that I was accessible, that I knew exactly what they wanted me to raise for them, and I would go and do it. I wouldn't be held to a whip, I think, is the main thing. So if we're having votes in Parliament, I'm not coming back and saying, oh, Keir Starmer said I had to vote like this because that's the best for you. I would be going into Westminster saying, well, actually, my constituents want me to vote like this. And there may be times when that might go against my personal belief. And I would hope that by engaging people in politics, that we would be able to, increase the education around it. We're meant to feel baffled by the mainstream media. Don't talk to us in a way that we understand, And I would hope that by engaging people and being accessible, that actually when it came to voting for things, we were more on the same page and there would be less division, because that's what we've had since 2016 and Brexit. Just a divided society where 50% are on one side and 50% are on the other, and we need to fix that. So I know that I am, and I know that people that I'm close to are. And when you look on social media, you see it. But I'm not convinced that it's the main concern of people in Bishop Auckland. That's a good question. I mean, look at what we did when the Ukraine, obviously the women and children who left the Ukraine, and people in this country took them into their homes. And I know there was a little bit of a financial incentive, but I don't think that the majority of people did it for that. They did it because they cared about the people. And maybe that was government led, like maybe if somebody in a position of power could do the same for, the people in Gaza or the people in other countries. I hate to say it, but I feel like we've got compassion for other white nations, but we don't have the same compassion when it comes to people of a different colour. But I think if it was led by somebody passionate, people might feel it was all right to go along with it. I think there's a lot of racism, and it's in some of these communities because people daren't step out of the crowd, so they tend to go with what's happening around them. I don't know the answer, if I'm honest, to changing minds on that. I guess it's just keep banging the drum. But if we could bring refugees and have them integrated into the community, that might be a start. So he tells us he's permanently changed it, and I'm inclined to believe him. I think he's absolutely trashed it. He's purged socialism. It was like, I mean, I don't want to use science fiction references, but last week was like Revenge of the Sith. You know, the bit at the end where literally they're striking down every Jedi. Every time you looked on Twitter, another socialist MP was either sacked or standing as an independent. He's destroyed. I'll be honest, the reason I've stood, like I said, I have no big dream. I had no big ambition. But when I knew there was an election coming, and so I thought, right, okay, I need to get off my backside. Instead of being an armchair activist, I'll just start campaigning for somebody, try to help in some way. And that was how I found Transform. And then we were obviously thinking there's an October election coming, and they were looking for candidates. So I put myself forward, but even then, when they were talking to me about it, I said, I will happily back any other candidate who's put themselves forward. I don't think I'm the ideal person for this. There's people with a lot more knowledge and a lot more experience than me, but nobody else has put themselves forward. So if that's the situation we're in, then sometimes you just got to do something yourself. And while I've got the opportunity to do this, and I don't for 1 minute have any remote belief that I'm going to win in Bishop Auckland, this is an opportunity over 4 weeks to at least try to get the word out. Not primarily about Transform, but about socialism and about a different way of doing things, and maybe get people to utilise a vote, get them to think about things, and maybe just plant that seed. Because obviously, I haven't always been like this. At some point, I must have read something or spoke to someone who's planted a seed. So if I can plant that seed, maybe we can make something happen. And I wholeheartedly agree with them, and that's how I ended up here, because we need to change it. I mean, the way we do politics in this country needs changing, and it's never going to change with one of the main two parties in charge, because obviously it works for them. So really, ideally, if people vote for independence and we can have some kind of hung parliament, we might be able to get to a system of proportional representation or some kind of change in our democracy, so that we can hold people to account. I think the main thing of the past 5 years of Tory rule, and that is what it has been, they had such a majority, they have not been able to be held to account by anybody. We have been powerless, and they've been able to change laws. Even looking at the Rwanda bill, which was rejected, they just dug their heels in and were stubborn enough to get it through. It's not democracy. And that, I mean, the same as what Keir Starmer's done to Labour. It's removing democracy. It's making things much harder to hold them to account. And that's why I think that we're quite desperate now for some change, because if he gets in with the landslide that they're predicting, I've got another 5 years of not being able to do a damn thing about it. If people are watching this who might actually be able to vote for me in Bishop Auckland, I mean what I say. I'm not in it to line my own pockets. I'm in it to actually try and make a difference. I was raised here. I've raised my kids here. I've got a son doing his GCSEs. My other son's just left home to go and live in for his work. I really care. I've got parents here who are getting older. They're going to need social care. My extended family are here. So I really care about what happens in this town. I also actually really care about what happens in this country, and I am scared of this lurch to the right, and I feel like we really need to do something to rein it back.